Hello. So today I actually wanted to talk about the Singapore MRT. For those of you who don't know, I have a lot of family in Singapore. My mum is Singaporean and my grandparents used to live in Singapore when they were alive. So I've been to Singapore quite a lot. And so obviously I know Sydney's public transport the best, as in that's the system, that's the city I know the public transport the best in. But I think Singapore is second. Like I actually think I know Singapore the second best, if that makes sense. Like I know Sydney really well, and then Singapore is probably the city I know the second best. Um, and I really love the MRT system. I've actually made a video about it, and I'll link it in the description. It's this one. And I'm happy to say that when I'm on incognito, it comes up fourth, which is, I feel very honored by that. But that could also be because I'm in Australia and it's giving me an Australian YouTube channel. But anyway, so definitely recommend watching that one. That's a much more formal one. But I wanted to do a bit of a rough video today about the Singapore MRT and kind of like what's going on, give you a bit of an update. Because what I think is so cool about Singapore is they have a really extensive MRT network, but it's not perfect. But what's really good is that they're making strides in terms of wanting to fix it. And I kind of wanted to talk about that today. But let's give you a bit of a rundown, I guess. So Singapore's MRT, for those who haven't watched the video, who don't know that much about it, it is I believe a 242 kilometer long system with, I think, 6 lines. Don't quote me on that, 8, but I think not all of them are open yet. There you go, yeah. So it's got 6 lines that are currently in operation, and then there are 2 under construction. And it's a very impressive system, which I think is almost entirely because it only started operating in 1987. So they built 143 stations, 140, oh my God, sorry. I don't know what's with this, I'm trying to highlight it. They've built 143 stations in just like about 40 years, less than 40 years, which I just think is just insane and wild. Just think how much money that costs. But there you go, $150 billion, which is insane. But does that mean yearly? What does that mean? In total? But the point is, it can't be yearly, what am I saying? That must be in total. That's how much they've spent in total on their system. That's a lot of money, but it's such an impressive system. And I would definitely recommend giving a ride on it if you can. I'm actually going to pull up the photos I took. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get them up. But yeah, sorry. So basically, it's a really impressive system. I'll show you a map of the system. So this is their actual map, basically, of the current system. So they've got the east-west line, so that's the green line. They've got the north-south line, which is the red line. They've got the downtown line's the blue line. The circle line's the one that's a circle. And they've also got the purple line, which is the northeast line. And the newest one is the brown line, which is the Thomson East Coast line. That one's the most relevant to me because that's where my grandma lives around Marine Parade in Katong, and ever since I've been visiting, I think it was around about 2016 when they started construction, and I remember every year I've gone back. I've been back in 2016, and then I've probably been back roughly every 1 to 2 years since then. I've always seen the Marine Parade station open, under construction, but I finally got to go and see it actually open last year, and I'll show you some pictures. So that is not a picture of the MRT, obviously. Let me see, blah, 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 blah. This is going backwards. Okay, so let me show you. So that's the Marine Parade Station. And yeah, no, it's really cool, the new Thomson East Coast line. It obviously makes traveling from like the southeast of the island, which is kind of where my grandma lives, like the east coast, makes it much easier to get to the city. It's like a 10-minute walk from where she lives. So it's like super convenient. But it was really quiet, I will say that, their MRT, the Thomson East Coast line. Like, you can probably get a sense that there was, I said, this is now the Circle line. I'll skip through the Circle line station pictures because I don't want to take too long with this video. But as you can see, it's a pretty quiet. Like, it's kind of empty. I don't necessarily think that's an indictment, though. I think maybe it's a good thing because, honestly, they're building for the future. Like, a lot of these stations, as you saw with Tanjong Rhu. So this is Tanjong Rhu station, and as you can kind of see in this picture, there's like not that much around it yet. There are obviously apartments, but there's also a lot of empty land that's right next to some water. So maybe they're going to build more stuff, or it could also be be a case of once the east, it's like a good redundancy for the east-west line, because the east-west line is like right there. Thompson East Coast line is right there. So if anything ever happens to the East-West line, now you have the Thompson East Coast line to kind of provide that redundancy. But I didn't really want to just talk about that today. I want to talk about more than that. So what I think is really impressive about Singapore is they identify the problems with their system and they really work hard to fix them. So the biggest problem, just as an outsider looking at Singapore, look, I feel like I know Singapore better than the average person who doesn't actually live there, but I obviously don't know it perfectly, but like as someone who doesn't live there, looking at Singapore, it really seems glaringly obvious that the west coast of Singapore has like nothing in terms of MRT. So they've obviously got the circle line down here. So I've got Haw Par Villa, Pasir Panjang, all of those stations down there. And then they've got the east-west line, but then there's a big gap kind of in the middle here along the AYE Expressway. And they've kind of got like a few gaps here as well along this road. Granted, I think there's a lot of detached houses there. Yeah, that's right. Singapore has detached houses. Not a huge number. I think they call them landed properties there. But they do have some. But that doesn't mean you don't give them transit. Like they still need transit, and also there's the potential for upzoning those areas and building new stuff there, right? That's what they do in Sydney. They build metros in detached areas and then they turn it into apartments. But they've noticed that and they're trying to fix that, which I think is really great. So this is the kind of the future of Singapore's MRT network. Can I just say it's really hard to find a map of what's planned, which I admit is probably the same for Sydney, or it used to be. Now our new rail map now has all the planned lines, but it didn't used to. And it's similar with Singapore. It's really, this is like not even an official map as far as I can tell. It does say it's from the LTA, but I didn't get it off their website. Anyway, let's not dilly-dally. So the first line that Singapore's building is the Cross Island line. Or actually no, I guess the Jurong line's the first one, but I'm going to talk about this one first. So the Cross Island line is starting in the east around Changi Airport, and they might extend it to Terminal 5. And then it's going west through Pasir Ris, going all the way across it. So this is, so you might notice a bit of it, or you might not notice, because it's maybe not super obvious, but there's a bit of a gap there. That's where the Paya Lebar Air Base is. So I'll show you on here. So it kind of goes under there. I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they have provisions for a station underneath. And if they don't, I'd be really surprised, because that's one of the things I really respect about Singapore is that they actually build shell stations. So Bukit Brown is one of the coolest, I reckon. So Bukit Brown is here, there it is. So that's Bukit Brown, and it's just an MRT station that was built like 10 years ago, but they haven't opened it because it's not really an MRT station, it's a shell. Like they've got this structure there, but why is it so blurry? They've got the structure there, but they haven't actually opened it yet. They haven't actually built it out yet. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off track, but point is that's the Cross Island line, and they've started constructing it from Aviation Park to Bright Hill, which is why that's all green. They haven't started Bright Hill to Jurong Lake District, or if they have, they're really early in construction. But that is where I think they're kind of really recognizing, oh, the West Coast doesn't really have enough transit, let's build a bit more there. So it's going to kind of, if you kind of, I'm going to draw on here, it's kind, and this is very, very approximate to me, it's kind of something like, does it go through Hougang, or, yeah, it goes through Hougang, so I'm kind of already stuffing it up. I guess through there, I'm really winging this. This is a very, very rough route. It goes through the Central Catchment Reserve, and then it kind of dives down here, goes through Clementi, and then it goes to West Coast, and that's West Coast. So you can see it's really giving better transit access to the West Coast. Granted, it doesn't give them access to the city, but that's one thing I also really love about Singapore's MRT, is that it's not just focused on radial journeys. I mean, look at this, what the red line, the North-South line does. It's like, kind of does like a lot of distributing and collecting along like Kranji and Choa Chu Kang, and then distributes it to Jurong East, and then you can go from Jurong East all the way into Singapore. Although the East-West line is very, very, very busy, and one of the most short-sighted things that Singapore did, and maybe someone in the comments can tell me why they did this, is the Bukit Panjang line. Oh, it's not called that, but I think it used to be. The the downtown line just ends at Bukit Panjang, and then it doesn't go to the north-south line, and it just seems very short-sighted of them to not build it all the way. However, they are currently in the process of extending it to Sungai Kadut, I think. And I'm sorry if I'm saying anything wrong, by the way, because I know Singapore place names pretty well because of I've explained why, but I don't know them perfectly, so I may be saying some things wrong. But yeah, they're extending it to there, I'm pretty sure. Is it on this map? No, they haven't even got it on this map. That's weird. Yeah, to Sungai Kadut, there you go. But yeah, so that's the east-west, that's the Cross Island line. They also have the Jurong line, the Jurong region line, I'm pretty sure it's called. Yeah, Jurong region line. And that one's a bit more of, I'm probably not going to get into that today because I didn't want to like make this video too long. The Jurong region line seems pretty clever, but it is also kind of looks more like a LRT to me than an MRT. I think because it kind of seems like it's collecting traffic and then you have to transfer at Chua Chu Kang or Boon Lay or Jurong East. So it's not really getting you anywhere, if that makes sense. It's like, I guess I see why they've called it the Jurong region line, because it's really just about going around Jurong, which is kind of more like what an LRT does, right? Like around Punggol, it's just like getting you around Punggol, and then same with Sengkang, and same with the Bukit Panjang LRT. But anyway, let's not get into that. I still think it's great that they're building it. They're just building so much is what I really respect about Singapore. They're building 2 entire new MRTs. The Cross Island line is going to be 6 cars. Again, I shouldn't say this without checking, so I will check real quick. I don't want to be wrong. Cross Island, so 6 cars. Is it 6 cars? Come on, load. Cars. Yeah, 6 cars. So there you go. So 6 cars, which is crazy because Singapore, the downtown line's only 4 cars, I think, or 3 cars, and the circle line is similar. So this is only 3 cars, and the circle line, I think, is also only 3 cars, which is really weird, to be honest with you. I'm not sure why Singapore did that. And that's, again, one of the weaknesses of Singapore. So one thing with Singapore, and in my video, I mostly talked about the great things about the Singapore MRT. Yeah, so West Coast obviously doesn't have a huge number of MRTs, as you can see. Granted, I think it is less populated and it's more detached housing, but still. And also, yeah, the Circle line is only 3 cars, and the downtown line is also only 3 cars. But as I said, they're learning from their mistakes. Again, these aren't even really huge mistakes, not compared to Sydney anyway. They're pretty minor mistakes. But the Cross Island line, they're not doing the same thing. They're making it 6 cars from the get-go. Even though you look at its route and you're like, really, does that route need to be 6 cars? Like, it's all the way out of the city, and it's not even really going into Singapore, like, because this is obviously the city. But they recognize that, yeah, it's not going into the city, but it's pretty much just doing what the east-west line does. So it's good to have that redundancy, right? Like, it's the first line that will go from the east all the way to the west. Although you could probably argue the downtown line kind of does that, but it kind of goes more north, right, than west. The Cross Island line, the plan is to have it go all the way to Gulf Circle over here, although it's not on that map. So let me check here. The Cross Island line, Cross Island. There you go. So goal. Yes. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Gulf Circle. Yeah, it's weird that the map. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. So this is a route of the Cross Island line. So it's going to go from Terminal 5. The proposal is to get it to go to Terminal 5, and then it's going to go all the way to Gulf Circle. So it'll be the first line to go all the way from the east to the west since the east-west line. But I didn't want to just talk about that, and I'm kind of already been talking for a long time. This is what I wanted to talk about more, and we're already nearly been 15 minutes. So Singapore wants to build 2 new MRT lines, or at least they want to study them. So I think there's a map. Here we go. So they want to build a new line from the what they call the Greater Southern Waterfront, what I'm pretty sure is currently called Marina Bay. They want to build one from there, and they want to go all the way up through, I guess, Serangoon and all of that, and Seletar, I think, yeah, that's Seletar there. and then through to Woodlands. So that's a pretty good line. So Seletar is again another weak spot of the Singapore MRT. So this is Seletar over there. Granted, it doesn't look like there's very much there, but I'm sure they probably want to build more there, because if there is anything that Singapore doesn't have much of, it's land. And they have a lot. It's a big population, a lot of migrants, or they call them expats, but they're migrants. And they probably want to open up more land, and I think building there makes a lot of sense. And I think I really respect Singapore for looking. No, I'm not interested. For looking into that, and they also want to build what seems to be called a Tengah line, and I feel like that is honestly looks more important to me, because as I was saying, like the west of Singapore doesn't seem to have like MRTs. This corridor along Holland Road in particular, just not really anything. And again, I'm pretty sure it's mostly, if I went on satellite mode right now, I reckon you'd see mostly detached houses. Yeah, I'm correct. But again, like they probably want to upzone that, right? So I think that just makes a lot of sense to me. And I really respect Singapore for doing that. And I feel like Singaporeans have a lot to be excited about, because not only do they have a new line that's going to go from the east of the island all the way to the west, first one to do that since the Green Line, the east-west line, and of course the Jurong line as well, but they're also going to have like 2 new lines quite potentially. And the thing with Singapore that I really respect is that they seem to build things when they say they're going to. Not all the time, not everything goes to plan. Just look up the Nickel Highway collapse, and you'll find the proof that not everything always goes according to plan in Singapore. But it does a lot of the time, like much more so than Sydney, much more so than Australia, because obviously I speak from an Australian perspective. We have things just not go to plan all the time. We wanted to build a rail line from Chatswood all the way to Parramatta, and we never did that. And it wasn't because of a collapse. It wasn't because of any really huge thing. It was just the government just were like, no, we don't have enough money, and then they just never did it. And in Singapore, it kind of doesn't feel like that happens as much. But I say that as someone looking on from the outside. Okay, so, and this is kind of leads me to the final point that I wanted to talk about today, which is that I think that Singapore's MRT is great as an asset, and I think pretty much everyone in the world will look at Singapore and be like, wow, this is excellent. But then you go to Reddit. So this is a Reddit post about the MRT. And yeah, it's no one is like, wow, this is amazing. Wow, this is great. They're just kind of saying the same things that we would say as Australians if the government announced things like, this person's making a joke like it's been 84 years. It's like, oh, it's been so long. Making a joke about how long it's taking, I guess. This person's talking about a train line fault, which is this one's saying just get on with it. And this one's saying finally, making some sense. It's just like, it's like, it just feels like a slice of home. It's like, oh, I'm glad they're doing this. How many years do they need to study the Seletar line? Because the Seletar line isn't something new. Like, they've been planning that for a while. So that's kind of what I want to finish off with. Like, I love Singapore's transport. I am enamored by it. Like, it is so obviously better than Sydney's. But there's something really like comforting about the fact that Singaporeans are still complaining about it. Like, it's one of the best transit systems in the world, and I think we all agree on that. Like, I think even the average Singaporean would probably agree. Even though, yeah, like Hong Kong's better, London, you could probably make the argument London's better. You could probably go either way with London. Singapore is generally accepted to be one of the best. Maybe not the absolute best, but it's still kind of weirdly comforting to see people complaining about it. So that's like, I think that I wanted to end with that because it's kind of proof that no matter where you're from, no matter if you live in the best city in the world or worst, you're probably still going to complain. That's just human. But yeah, Singapore's MRT is great. Really excited to see them extend their MRT. And I just think like, yeah, this west corridor is like definitely lacking, and I definitely think a Tengah line is great, especially because there's a lot of development planned around Tengah. You can actually see them like building stuff now, and I'm pretty sure Tengah is on the Jurong region line, if I'm correct. Let me check real quick. I'm pretty sure there's stations at Tengah. Yeah, so they've got quite a few stations in Tengah. There you go. So yeah, no, so like definitely reason to be excited, honestly. Like, yeah, I just really think that they're building a lot in Singapore. If I had to say anything about Singapore, what they could do, well, I honestly, Not much. I will say that the Circle Line, just like, it feels like they've been building this forever. So for context, the Circle Line isn't done. It's not a full circle yet. I guess why is it taking so long? I'm sure people in the comments will know why, but figure that out, I think, and go faster next time. Even the Thomson East Coast Line felt like it took a while. I know in Australia we also take forever. So to be clear, we should also figure out why we take so long as well. But yeah, otherwise, no. Like, Singapore's doing excellently with everything that they do when it comes to transit. Obviously, there's room for improvement. That Reddit thread proves that, like, not everyone is happy. And I'm not suggesting they don't have a right to complain. They absolutely have a right to complain if they've been waiting for a long time. So, you know, obviously Singapore have room for improvement, just like anyone. But oh, and also don't get me started on the Changi Airport, because they want to. I'm not going to get into it because others have gotten into it, but they want to they want to extend the Thomson East Coast Line to Changi Airport and then convert the Changi Airport branch. Probably not going to get into that because I think another channel's done a video about that. If I remember, I will link it. But I kind of want to leave it there. I think I've said like 10 times I want to end the video. I'm going to actually end it now. I want to do more rough videos like this, so if there's anything else you want me to talk about with the Singapore MRT, or with anywhere else, honestly, like, just let me know in the comments. But otherwise, and if there's any topics in general, any other cities or anything really, I want to do more rough videos like this for the channel. But yeah, otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.